Hello everyone, welcome back to Feelings Forward. Today I'm joined by a very dear friend and a fellow therapist, Prabhjyot. She is someone I started my career with, and in today's conversation, we're going to talk about what therapy actually looks like. We're going to burst a few myths, talk about our lived experiences, and also reflect about what it means to hold space for other people. So, if you're someone who's been curious about the world of therapists, this one's for you. So, stay tuned. Welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So, we started our journey as therapists together. It's been 7 years now. And it's great that we're sitting on this couch and recording a podcast about mental health.
Yes.
So I was thinking about this when we were noting down questions for you. And one thing that I encounter a lot in the therapy room when people do ask me that, I thought I came to therapy thinking that things will get better.
Mm.
And now I'm feeling worse.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I definitely want to start by acknowledging that yes, it is really hard.
Yeah.
Going to therapy is hard work. It
Mm.
feels like there's so much to do, but that's what the point is, right? Like we have been avoiding so many things for such a long time, especially you and I when we work with adults, right?
Mm.
If someone is, let's say, even 20 for that matter, coming to you for therapy, it's 20 years worth of who they are,
Mm.
20 years worth of how they've been wired, how
Yeah.
their environment has impacted them.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be sorted, fixed, organized,
Mm.
taken care of in because the expectation is you do one session or you do two sessions or three
Yeah.
sessions
Mm.
and it's going to get better.
Mm.
It doesn't work like that in reality.
Mm.
And the other thing that I think you and I have discussed at some point or the other is just the avoidance bit.
Yeah.
All of us are very, very pro at avoiding, by the way, right? Everything that keeps us away from how we feel is something that we very naturally go towards. Humans will do anything and everything to avoid. I
Yeah.
think we see that happen in our work so much, but even
Yeah.
otherwise, right? Like all our social medias or all our OTT subscriptions or anything that can this rush to not feel because
Mm.
it's too much.
Right.
So I guess it feels like it's getting worse because you're finally taking that space to slow down and say that, you know what, I think this is hurting
Yeah.
or that is not okay.
Mm.
Or I'm not sure why I feel this way, but I feel this way. So when you start recognizing what you're feeling,
Mm.
when you start slowing down into it, it
Mm.
can suddenly feel like a lot. But that's what we're doing. We are helping them, we're helping our clients build tolerance up for their emotions.
Right.
So that's the worst bit, and then it definitely gets
Gets
better
better.
because your tolerance for your emotion increases and
Right.
things like that. So yeah, I guess that is why it feels like it's getting worse.
Yeah, I think, when you're talking, the visual that is coming in my mind is like someone's gotten hurt somewhere.
Hmm.
And you know how you have to put Dettol or Savalon on it, and there's like a sting,
Yeah,
and you feel slightly like there's a discomfort there.
yeah.
And I think that's the visual that's coming in my head that to
Hmm.
feel better, it's necessary to put that antiseptic. And therapy is that antiseptic.
Yes,
So
in a
to
lot of
speak, and
ways.
you will feel discomfort, and you'll have to air your wound and not put bandage on it,
Hmm.
which you have been doing for so many years.
Yes,
So
yes.
it takes time for that wound to heal. So
Hmm.
probably,
Everything teaches you to put that bandage on it and to cover it up and to
yeah,
quieten it down and to suppress it and to push it aside. Therapy is always going to challenge that, which is why it can feel like it's
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
tough. I don't want to do it. I'd much rather, I
Yeah.
don't know, zone out,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
be here to do the feelings.
Yeah. Like a lot of clients come up and say, "Why are we talking about this?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, we'll take it at your pace and slowly. We don't want to overwhelm you, but we'll have to talk about it
We
at
have to
some
talk about this.
point
Yes.
because yeah, avoidance is coping mechanism, which is turning unhealthy.
Mm.
Hmm. Interesting.
But you know what? I'm loving this moment because, like you said, we are reflecting on our collective journeys as therapists that, started 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you really think people who are on the outside of this profession
Yeah.
can understand what it means to be a therapist, can really
Hmm.
understand the nitty gritties or the nuances of what it takes to hold space and be a therapist? What do you think?
I I wish somebody would understand, but I have like you and other therapist friends who would understand. But people on the outside of this profession, I don't think they'll understand the whole. They won't understand the whole picture of it.
Hmm.
Um, Reason being is because I think a lot of we obviously can't talk about what we've heard because of confidentiality, right? And I don't think I also, when I'm thinking about this question, I also don't think I have the vocabulary
Hmm.
to explain it to someone. What am I
Yeah.
doing in that room for that
Hmm.
1 hour, day after day, with clients after client? And like you said, we're holding space for grief, shame, so many complex emotions and needs. And then you come back from a day of work
Hmm.
and you go on with your day, like you make dinner, you eat, you sit with family, you go out with your friends, and you just have to kind of disconnect from what you've witnessed the most vulnerable part of someone.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that to
Hmm.
another person, right? And I think because our jobs are also, it has more to do with what we feel
Hmm.
rather than how can you, like, it's not so much about what I can say, it's more how I feel in
Hmm.
that session,
Hmm.
right? And there's this sacredness that comes with, I think, being a therapist.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
feel like i can't I can't explain it. So I understand people on the outside can support, they can appreciate, they can acknowledge, um, but I don't know if they can fully understand. Like I
Hmm.
said, it's a lived experience.
Yeah, I loved how you said sacred, right? Because we are experiencing it in our space and we, like you said, in a community get to share it. But to a person who's on the outside, who's even curious about this world,
Hmm.
I sometimes think that being a therapist is like being in a relationship with, let's say, 15 people at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think somebody who's not doing that can really understand what it takes
Hmm.
to be
Yeah, yeah,
present
yeah.
or manage or show up in these relationships.
For sure. I don't know. People
Mm.
ask me also, and they say also that, oh, this must be really hard.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they understand the depth of it.
Mm.
There's a lot of emotional labor
Yeah.
that goes into it, and which makes me think that, like, how do you deal with, let's say, you've had a heavy day of sessions, and do you feel, I'm sure, I'm sorry, I'm speaking on your behalf because I feel drained, but do you feel drained? And if you do, how do you cope with that?
Mm. Like I'm feeling drained with that question because honestly, I want to feel drained. And I'll
Hmm.
tell you what I mean by that. I don't want it to sound wrong. It's a part of the job to feel so invested, like so genuinely interested,
Hmm.
really wanting to be there, that of course you're going to carry a certain amount of emotion that your client is feeling.
Yeah.
You're supposed to, that's the work. Not only are you witnessing it with them, for them, you're taking some of it so that they can be unburdened, right? Like you can't prevent life from happening to anybody.
Hmm.
But when a client comes to you and they're sharing, like you said, a really vulnerable part of that or something that's been very tough for them, I think it is the therapist's responsibility to feel it with them. So, of course, it gets draining to an extent where sometimes I'm really, after a day of work, done. Like, I don't have people space left, you know, and then you know this. I
Yeah.
have people telling me that why can't you respond to texts or
Me being one of them.
yes, exactly. Why do you disappear and when will
Yeah.
we hear from you? And I'm hearing the stories that I'm hearing and I just want to stay with them, you know, like I
Hmm.
want to. So it's okay to acknowledge that it is a, like you said, a draining job or the
Hmm.
emotional labor that goes into this. And
Hmm.
yeah, I volunteer to be drained.
Hmm.
I also volunteer at the same time to take care of myself
Right.
and do it all over again the next day and the
Hmm.
next day.
Hmm.
But the resonance that is happening within that space
Hmm.
can't be like that your client is drained or fatigued with what life is doing to them and
Hmm.
you meet their energy with, oh, you're excited and you're chirpy and you're
Yeah.
full of energy, so to say, right? You it doesn't happen like that. You're like, it's such a somber experience in that
Hmm.
moment, right? Like
Hmm.
you're, yeah. So honestly, I'm okay carrying some of it for them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, what does that feeling of being drained do to you, or how do you manage?
I think it, like, how you give out or you hold space. We use this word so much. We're holding space for our clients.
Mm.
I think it's like battery on 100, and then at the end of the day, battery on 0.
Yeah.
So I've given all my space.
Yes.
And I, like you said, it's a choice.
Mm.
So I don't, and then I want to do it again the next day. So you recharge, and then you come back to work. But yeah, it is, like I said earlier also, it's difficult to explain that to someone because at the end of work, sometimes someone says, "Oh, you're so quiet,"
Yes.
or "Arey, just forget about work now
Mm.
and just enjoy this party," or "Why you're not chit chatting?"
Mm.
Because I just don't have the social battery to kind of
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think to combine those two questions and answers together is that it's it is draining and exhausting, and hopefully after people do watch this podcast they'll know how it actually, I mean, I don't know if they'll feel it, but they'll probably know what it is all
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Of course. In continuation of that, right? Like,
Hmm.
what is the one therapy myth you know people to believe, or one therapist myth for that matter, and you'd much rather that, you know what, that's not how it is, and what would you like to
Hmm.
offer as a clarification?
I think that therapists have uh, everything figured out for them.
Hmm. Oh my God, that is a big one.
Like we're so calm, and even friends or family, often say that, "Are you're a therapist now, you get it. Like why are
Hmm.
you reacting this way, or why are you feeling bad? You might have the techniques to just get over this." And I was like, I don't have a magic book in my
Yes.
pocket.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
human. So I think that's a myth
Hmm.
that sometimes people view therapists as these magical beings who have everything sorted and they're really calm. But I think with that being said, yes, we have the training to understand, to reflect, to sit with our feelings, and to regulate in
Hmm.
some way.
Hmm.
So yes, we have all of that training, but with that being said, there are also negative emotions that we feel in our personal lives, and we
Hmm.
don't have it all figured out. We also struggle with our own issues. So I think that's one myth that I hear professionally and personally,
Hmm.
that, oh, you don't know everything.
Hmm.
And I wish I did, but I don't. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm at that point where I don't even wish I did. I don't have the answers. I don't know, and you're so right. Like,
Yeah.
even in our personal relationships, I really like that you're highlighting that also. It's
Hmm.
not just people on the outside, in a way that even in our personal relationships, at least I have heard, you do this for a living. How are you not seeing this? Or
Hmm.
how are you not understanding? Or why are you not calm right now? Or why can't you just regulate? And we are not emotionally regulated unicorns. We're not. We feel. I feel very deeply. I'm
Hmm.
a human being.
Yeah.
Like, even right now, I'm not a therapist, right? Like, you and I are colleagues, you and I are friends, you and I are, we've known each other, we've seen each other grow as therapists. So
Yeah.
at the same time, you've seen each other grow as people also.
Hmm.
So I guess this bit, right? Like you're forgetting that your therapist is also a person, or
Hmm.
you're forgetting that your daughter, who's a therapist, is also a person. You're forgetting that your partner, who's a therapist, is also a person.
Definitely.
Sometimes for older therapists, your mother, who's a therapist, is also a person.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
do wish more people saw that
Yeah. 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 That happens all the all the time.
all the time.
But then, how does one? And that brings me to another thought, which is, how do you show up? Where if you're struggling emotionally,
Hmm.
how do you personally show up in the therapy room?
Do you mean like what all?
Like, is that something that comes in between
Hmm.
the process, or just a random thought popped up in my head? When if you're struggling in our personal lives, how do we show up? I mean, I'm sure people would have this question. "Yeah, Acha, if they're struggling, how can they help us?"
Hmm.
So just to break that down for them, what do you think? How do you show up? Maybe that will answer the question for them.
Yeah. So I think the answer lies in realizing that not all of me is struggling at any point. Just like not all of you or all of the client is struggling at any point.
Mm-hmm.
This is really to drive home the idea of multiplicity within ourselves.
Right.
Like you're not just one Niharika, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are so many parts to you, there are so many parts to me, there are
Mm,
so many parts to all of us.
right.
And I think we tend to look at ourselves as this one whole human being who's supposed to be drowning in any singular feeling that you're feeling in the moment. But
Mm,
you're not.
mm,
So once you start recognizing that, let's say there's a part of you that is feeling shame and not the entire system,
mm,
that there can be other parts that are present,
mm,
then you realize that you can still show up. It's not just about how I might show up for my client, it's about how you might show up in your personal relationships. So
right.
although I have I have my feelings towards the word, what's the word where you put things in compartments, compartmentalization.
Yeah, yeah.
I have my feelings towards that word, by the way.
Mm,
Separate discussion maybe. But it's not compartmentalization, it's realizing that you're bigger than what you're feeling right now.
mm,
And you should know how to have tolerance for that feeling,
yeah,
and also maybe parking it aside sometimes and then getting back to it when you have access to your personal space again.
correct.
So,
Absolutely.
showing up as a therapist for me in moments when I'm going through something very crazy myself, which by the way is not always possible. This is not to say that
Mm,
every
mm,
therapist should compulsorily show up no matter what.
mm,
Sometimes you have to recognize when you absolutely cannot. So you have to stop and you have to say that I need a break.
yeah, yeah.
You have to stop doing the clinical work that you're doing and be willing to admit that this is getting overwhelming. This is a bit
Mm,
too much.
mm,
But otherwise, I think I show up by acknowledging that I'm not fully okay. But
mm,
in that 1 hour or 50 minutes or whatever I can,
yeah.
I really, again, like I'm choosing and committing to
Mm,
just be present and to just focus more on what the client is saying.
yeah. Yeah. We do that every day,
Every day, right? Every hour, actually.
every hour.
Think about it. Like how many sessions we do in a day. Every hour, it's a renewed commitment. It's like we're
Yeah.
renewing the vows.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to use that to
Yeah.
explain it to someone else when they ask me this question
Hmm.
next time. Yeah.
Yeah. I also, since we were just reflecting on our journeys, I wrote down a bunch of things for you as well. And
Hmm.
where do you personally draw the line between being real in a session versus being professional? Because I think
Hmm.
that discussion also comes up quite a bit, right? Like, where where do you start and where does the therapist end, or where does the therapist start and where do you end?
I think they go hand in hand.
Mm,
There's no
absolutely.
start and end in my head. I try to be real, of course, without making the session about me. Obviously, it's not about me. But like sometimes we use techniques like self disclosure
Yeah.
if we feel that they will serve
Mm,
something for the client. So I try to be as real as I can. When I say real, sometimes people feel being professional is being cold and clinical and distant,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't happen for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that because
Mm.
that's not the person I am. So in a session also I show up like I am, keeping, obviously it's boundaried in a way, it's ethical, but it's still real. So if somebody will ask me a question and I don't have an answer to that, I would say I don't know, I'm so
Mm.
sorry. Or if they're going through an experience and I've
Mm.
not been through that and I don't know how to comfort you, I'll say I don't know what to say, I can't imagine how
Mm.
that would feel like.
Mm.
And I think that's what therapy is about, right? In my head, it's there's no hierarchy. It's not like I'm above, I'm like this authority figure and you're
Yeah.
my client.
Yeah.
It's more to do with I'm going to hold your hand and let's walk through this together.
Mm.
It's like that.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't, I don't think that I think being real, in fact, can make the whole therapeutic relationship way better
Mm.
because it'll help build trust, and your client will also start seeing you as a human being,
Mm.
and that is really important.
Yeah.
And they'll see that, okay, I can, if Niharika is saying this, um let me think about it, let me reflect.
Mm.
I think it keeps the conversation open,
Mm.
and I sometimes share my opinion,
Mm.
and say this is what I'm thinking, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And sometimes, very clinical, in our clinical practice growing up and in college also, you're not supposed to give suggestions, and you're not supposed to give solutions. Yes, we don't give solutions, but we can share an opinion, I
Mm.
feel, right? I can say that, okay, this is what is popping up in my head,
Yes.
and how do you feel about it?
Mm.
I'm not saying, oh, go do this
Mm.
or go do that. I'm saying this is what I'm thinking,
Mm.
and let's discuss.
Yeah.
And I do say, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's a discussion, it's a conversation, it's an alliance.
Mm.
So let's do it together. So I
Mm.
think that's, in my head, that's being real and not distant and detached. What do you think?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm thinking so many things, but you're so right about the rigidity of the word professionalism as if it's supposed to be a script to follow.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you've also noticed a lot of young therapists. You and I were like that, right? Like in our first job, where we'd be like, okay, tell us first session mein kya kya karna hai, second session mein kya kya karna hai, like list it down for us,
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah, I
follow
remember.
that to the T. But as you grow up in this profession, as you
Yeah,
grow up as a therapist, you realize, oh God,
yeah.
that's not how it's going to work at all, right? And this is something that I say to my clients always, that this is a shared space.
Hmm.
I don't like to say that this is your space.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is exactly what you said, that when you and I are talking, I like to get in touch with what is coming up for me, what is a felt sense for me, what
Hmm.
is my body telling me in the moment,
Hmm.
which is why therapy is so much more than two people sitting and talking. Like, I think it's really watered down and diluted in, like,
Yeah.
the famous image of therapy being, yeah, you just sit and talk, or people are like, oh, acha, so you get money for just listening. You're not just listening through your ears, you're listening through your body, you're listening through your nervous system, you're
Yeah.
listening through your attachment network,
Hmm.
how you have been wired, and
Hmm.
you're listening for tiny things that they are not actually saying.
Exactly.
So I think being real means acknowledging that things will come up for you too.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
You're not a blank screen.
And then sitting with that, like
Yes.
there's so much work that one does outside of sessions,
Yes.
right? And I was just thinking, like, people, like how you said, I hear this so many times, that it's this client you see for 1 hour once a week,
Mm.
and then do you not think about them, or you forget, and then you move on to the next, and it's like gone, you detach. And I don't think that's how it works at all.
Mm.
And you're just taking money for talking or listening, and that listening comes from years of training,
Mm.
actively listening for, like you said, things that are said and things that are not said.
Yeah.
And taking what your client is bringing and kind of, using that and going ahead. So how does one mold it, take them to some realization, or take them to a place of reflection, asking the right questions? All of that takes a lot of training. A lot of training. I don't think people understand the depth of that.
Yeah.
But what does self work look like for you? Like outside of these sessions, like I said,
Hmm.
we're not, it's just not about that 1 hour, it's more. So, how does that work?
It's so many things at the same time. I think the first thing when I think of self work is being in therapy myself.
Mm.
I am also doing the work that you are doing, or this unsaid expectation of a client coming in and the therapist expects them to do the work. Yes, like I said in the beginning, there is work. So, for a therapist to be able to experience that as a client too, by the way, therapists make the worst clients. Let's also put that out there.
Yeah, I
But
know.
recognizing your own patterns,
Mm.
recognizing your own history, that is individual, but that's also cultural. That's
Mm.
also okay. How is your family brought you up? What are your views on things?
Mm.
What do you think about the world?
Mm.
What are your ideas about the politics of the world and whatever is going on?
Mm.
It requires reflection on all of that. So therapy is just one space to do it. But otherwise, engaging with supervision, for example,
Right.
I always insist that it's important that every therapist is in supervision.
Mm.
It doesn't matter that you've been in practice for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 15
Yeah.
years, because my supervisor is in supervision herself. You know what I mean? Just like my therapist has a therapist herself, right?
Yeah.
So these are generations of practitioners, people in the clinical world who are trying to help clients that come to them.
Mm.
So I think I'm not showing up as a therapist alone in that room. It's all of these networks that I have.
Right.
It's the peer support that I seek. It's the community that we've created together.
Yeah.
It's knowing that their experience can give me some insight that I'm possibly not even thinking of.
Mm.
It's being open to that insight. That is so tough, right? Like
It is.
sometimes you think that I don't know about you and I, but I think I've come across some therapists who are
Mm.
arrogant a little bit in the sense that what I know is the best way to go
Mm.
forward with a particular client. But to
Yeah.
be open to feedback like that and to be open to someone sitting there and questioning you, but why do you think you said that to the client?
Mm.
Why do you think you chose to go this way and not that way? And then that capacity to reflect is also what's going on, right? It's not that 1 hour. And I think we were discussing that sometimes it's also the tiny sweet things, right? Like you'd go to a place and you'd remember, oh, my client mentioned being here. I wonder how they felt. Or
Yeah.
you're trying out a cuisine and you remember a session where a client talked about that cuisine. Or
Yeah.
it's how you carry your clients with you in so many tiny sweet ways
Yeah.
and sometimes difficult ways because some clients bring up so much for you that you have to be like, oh, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
slow down. Something is happening here which is making me uncomfortable, and then to recognize that discomfort, to
Absolutely.
be willing to face it. So
Mm.
it's a lot of self work, like I said, all of this to say that it can look like therapy, it can look like supervisions, it can look like peer support,
Yes.
it can look like knowing that what you experience on the outside is going to feature in your room
Mm.
as a therapist,
Mm.
and knowing that what you're experiencing in the room will definitely have a spillover on the outside.
Outside. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I think. What do you want to add to what self work could look
The
like?
more I talk about what therapy work looks like,
Yeah.
the more I have this sense of like gratitude that kicks in, that it's a privilege to be here and do
Yes.
this and feel this and experience it, because it's not simple.
Mm,
It's so complex.
mm,
And yeah, I was just thinking, like, there was, when you were talking, there was this rush of
mm.
gratitude that I felt,
Yeah.
which was nice. Yeah.
Tell me something, Harika. What in your experience with all the clients that you've worked with, what do you think is that thing that makes a therapist client relationship click I guess that's how I'd put it.
Hmm.
Like, what do you think that is?
Hmm. I think it's trust.
Oh.
I think it's the
Mm.
ability to trust your therapist. To We use words like in our trainings, in our education, we say we're empathetic, we're non-judgmental, etc. But to actually practice
Mm.
those words in the therapy room, to listen, to sit with them, to try to understand them, and that brings a sense of freedom probably in the client, which is that okay, I can be myself, and that's where real work starts. If they come into a therapy room thinking I don't know what to say, or can I say this, will Niharika judge me, I think it will not click. At least in the long run there will be some kind of
Mm.
like either they'll stop coming or something. I think it's about trust, it's about the freedom to show up authentically in that space.
Yeah.
And um, and like I said, being real with each
Mm.
other and just understanding, so many people come in, like let's say I've given some work to them to do and they don't do it. For
Mm.
example, sometimes I'm like, okay, why not? And we have a discussion about that. Sometimes when I'm like, okay, why? Why are you not doing the work? And then to kind of bring that into the session, and probably this is something actually I picked up from you, but
Mm.
in like maybe a few years back when you shared that I told my client how I was feeling. And 3 4 years back, and I was like, you can do that. And I learned that from you, and I started practicing that, and I was like, wow, this is life changing. And when I started doing that in obviously in my own ethical manner, that okay, this is bringing up, why, and I give you this work, and what do you think is coming in the way of it? And I feel a little confused, and and genuinely sharing my thoughts or my feelings about it. And they also are like, interesting. She can be real with us and she can share her confusion, and so can we.
Yeah.
So it opens up that channel. And like we've been saying, like it's collaborative. It's an alliance. It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. It's a
Mm.
shared space. So I think that's what makes the client and the therapist click.
Mm.
Trust, to just summarize and put it in one word.
Yeah. I love thinking of it as a co-exploration.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
picked up on that word when I was doing one of my courses, which, by the way, I should have added that we're constantly upskilling, right? Like, we know that we are enrolled in the bunch of trainings that we are enrolled in right now because you don't want to become complacent. There is so much literature. And when you know
Absolutely.
that you have the resources to access and you have the resources to learn more so that you can again keep doing this work and show up better and be contained in all of those things.
Mm.
But anyway, I was telling you about this co-exploration word that let's go on a hike together. I
Yeah.
don't know about the land just as much as you don't know about the land.
Right.
But are you willing to build a relationship trust with me that if you're troubled, maybe I'll come to your rescue and I can share with you that, hey, why are we going here and not here? And I
Yeah.
wonder what's there. Do you want to go check that out? I wonder
I
what's
love
up on
that.
that hill. I wonder what's up on that hill. I wonder
Yeah.
why did you dig that hole there? You know what I mean? Like a very I'm using this image and in this moment I feel I'm glad I'm using it because there's physical work involved.
Right.
Therapy is not just verbal communication. I don't think I
Mm.
can state that enough. And at the risk of sounding repetitive, it's what you're doing with your body is in that space as well, right?
Mm.
It's
Mm.
so yeah, it's co-exploration. Let's go on a
I love
hike
that.
together and let's find you because you want to find you as much as I want to find you. So
Yeah. And I don't know where you're hiding, so let's go. Look
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's make it safe enough for you to come out of hiding in a way,
I love that.
right?
It's like a clear visual in my head. I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So many thoughts. So
So
many
many
feelings.
thoughts and feelings. Yes, even right now, right? So many thoughts and feelings. And I really want to drive this point across, if I may come in at this point, right? So many thoughts and feelings. Like, again, plurality.
Hmm.
You are going to be feeling multiple feelings at the same time. I'm sure you've experienced a lot of people start feeling guilty if they're talking about their partner in therapy, if they're
Hmm.
talking about their parents in therapy, if they're talking about their siblings in therapy, that of course you're going to listen to me, but I don't want to bitch about my parents.
Yeah.
It's not okay. I mean, sure, in my compassionate way, let me say I see what you mean. But at the same time, this idea that you can only feel one feeling at the same time or the entirety of you is feeling one feeling only, that's not true, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
for us to give ourselves the permission, just give ourselves the permission to realize that when you talk about something that your parents did and it hurt you or it stayed with you, and we know there are these clear dialogues that stay with us, right? Like something that my mother must have said to me when I was like 7 or 8, but I know word to word what it was, and
Right.
I know the ways it has stayed in me,
Hmm.
stayed with me. So when I talk about it, it's not at all taking away from the love, appreciation, gratitude, respect that I have for her.
Hmm.
That can coexist with, hey, you know what? This hurt.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
they don't have to be in a hierarchy. They don't have to
Yeah.
take away from each other. You
Yeah.
know, you can talk about what's hurting, what's painful, what's not sitting right with you. And again, like a very felt sense thing, your
Yeah.
body will tell you what's not sitting right with you.
Yeah.
It's not an intellectualization of, अच्छा ये तो नहीं होना चाहिए था.
Hmm. Yeah.
So for that to be as real as, oh my God, I love my parents, or oh my God, I love my partner, and I'm so lucky to have them in my life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. These things can coexist, like I keep telling my clients or also personally friends and family that I can love you. I
hmm.
love you, but I can disagree with you, or there are certain things I don't like about you, and but I love you, and those two things can coexist. Like liking or dislike and love can coexist together, or hurt and love can coexist. Like multiple things. And I'm just saying two things can, but multiple things can coexist with each other, and
Yes,
that's the beauty of life.
yes, absolutely. I think that's the beauty of the therapeutic process as well.
Yeah.
I've always had problem with this idea of unconditional positive regard,
Hmm.
because for you to allow a certain reenactment that your client has to do in the space of therapy means that there will be ruptures with you as well.
Yes.
There will be a rupture in the therapeutic alliance. There will
Hmm.
be moments when your client is maybe mad at you.
Hmm.
Like they can not like your cancellation policy. They can not like that you're not flexible with your slots. They cannot like that you insist on doing one session a week when they might want 3 to 4 sessions a week. But then to be really curious enough to ask them, why does that make them mad?
Hmm.
That is where the work lies. Imagine
Yeah.
they don't ever get mad at you only. Or imagine that they don't ever tell you that, hey, this is not right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that will shape the therapeutic process in such a different way as compared to being, again, giving and having the space to be real, I guess. That's where
Yeah.
it comes down to.
I would really appreciate someone coming and saying that when you said this, it made me upset.
Yes.
Like, okay, let's explore it.
Yes.
I love that. So, and I think I do in not so many words, but do tell my clients that please disagree. If
Mm,
you feel the need that if you're disagreeing and you bring it up,
mm,
I'm not always right. Maybe I'm saying something that you think, oh God, this is bizarre.
mm.
Tell me,
Yeah.
and I will learn with you, and maybe we'll land up in a new space. Like like how you were telling me about the trek, the hike, and if you don't tell me, okay, Niharika, you're taking a wrong route. It's not
Mm,
from here, it's from here. Let's go from here. How would I know? I would
yeah.
keep taking that route, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very important to bring that
Mm,
to the session. Absolutely. And again, the visual that is coming in my head is when we went for when we went for LLE,
mm,
and I was feeling a bunch of things, And I came to you, and I'm like, I hate you. Why did you bring me here? And I'm feeling so much. And you said, okay. And I'll walk with you. Like, and we were going towards the room, and I wanted to go to the bathroom. And you said, I can walk with you to the bathroom, but you have to do your business yourself in the bathroom. And that's what I think it stayed with me. That's what therapy is like, also. The therapist will walk with you till the end, but there's a lot of work that you have to
Do on your
do
own.
on your own, and we'll help you through it. But yeah, that's and that's coming in my head now.
Nice. Good memory.
Good memory.
A lot of bathroom related memories. But anyway, good memory. There's this phrase, right? You can only take the horse to the water. You
Mm.
cannot make it drink it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're trying really hard to do that. And I also want to acknowledge that it doesn't work with everybody.
Hmm. Of course. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
also want to acknowledge, and my hope is that maybe other therapists can find a sense of
Hmm.
resonance here, or, you know, it will not work with every client that you see.
For sure.
It will not, everybody is not going to be a good fit for you, and you're not going to be a good fit for everyone. You cannot rescue everyone.
Absolutely.
You cannot take everyone as your client, and every person who reaches out to you is not going to meet the desired outcome, so to say. Which, by the way, it's so interesting how that definition also changes along
Hmm.
the process, right? Like, someone might step into this space with a certain goal in mind, but as you start exploring, especially you
Yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
doing depth work, and then the goal becomes not as big. I'm sure it can still exist, but there are so many other
Other
things.
goals that come up.
Exactly, there are so many other goals that come up. So you might not be able to help everyone, and that is as real as any other thing that we've spoken about today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It will not work with every client, and it's heartbreaking. Yeah, when a client sometimes ghost you. They can ghost you, they can leave you on red.
Yeah.
They can tell you that, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to take a break, but I'll come back, and then never come back, which, by the way, absolutely their choice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100% respect to that agency. But again, the human you is
Hmm.
going to have a reaction to that, or is going
Yeah.
to have a feeling to that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly, if anybody is experiencing that frustration as a therapist, that why is this not working, it's okay that you're feeling that frustration. You're
Yeah.
allowed to feel. And if a client is feeling that frustration, yeah, you're right. Sometimes it takes a while to get the quote unquote right therapist, and you have to
Yes.
see a bunch of people and see again what your body tells you or who you're vibing with. And Niharika might not be the person for you, Prabhjyot might not be the person for you, but there are other therapists out there if you want to
Yeah. Yeah.
reach
I
out
tell
for help.
everybody this, that don't give up on the idea. You will, if you're, I know, frustrating, I understand. I've been in that boat myself,
Yeah.
jumping from therapist to therapist, trying to find the right fit.
Mm.
But don't give up on the concept.
Yes.
You will find the right therapist.
Yes.
So yeah,
Mm.
it's like the right fit will come.
Mm.
One question that's popping up for me, you were talking about relationships and you gave that partner example as well.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about love from therapy? Or what have you learned about therapy from love?
Oh my God. That's a very nice question, actually. Mm. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is they're both imperfect.
Mm, I like that.
Love is imperfect, therapy is imperfect. Surprise, surprise, they're both human.
Mm,
So, what I have learned from love for both ways, like what learned from love for therapy or about therapy, or what I've learned about love from therapy is it is a cycle of coming and going.
mm,
It is a cycle of repair and rupture.
mm,
It is a cycle of disappointment and finding a way to maybe make up for it. But it's
mm,
impossible not to be disappointed. You're not going to get everything in one person, just like you're not going to get everything in one therapist, I guess.
mm, mm,
But then maybe being able to let go of this idea that you need everything,
mm.
and what can you do with what that person is actually offering. How
Yeah.
much does it align with you, of course, or doesn't align with you.
Yeah.
But I also don't appreciate that as therapists. I think there are so many ethics and boundaries and all of that that we shy away from admitting that we have a deep love for our clients.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this is going to be received, by the way, but I would like to say that I do have a deep love for my clients. And
Mm.
just that popularization of romantic love as the only love that can
Right. Right.
exist and has to exist and is going to add meaning to your life.
Mm.
Nah, I don't think so. What is love? It's this feeling of carrying them in your mind.
Mm.
It's this feeling of thinking about them, wanting them to be okay,
Yeah.
being able to help them on that journey, enabling them to be okay. Yeah, so I guess they do go hand in hand in a lot of ways. And yeah, we are committing. You see how many committing and vows and those kind of metaphors and
Yeah.
phrases have come up today. It's very fascinating. I'm very fascinated by that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's what I would say. What do you think? Like, do you?
I love the fact that you said both are imperfect.
Hmm.
I I completely resonate with that. I think people tend to find like, oh, I want this to be perfect. I want that to be perfect. I think the word is so overused, and I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know what perfect means,
Hmm.
but I know what imperfect means. So, and I know love is imperfect, and so is therapy, because and human beings are imperfect. So life is imperfect. Oh wow, this is like some like spiritual.
Gone
Yeah, gone
elsewhere.
elsewhere. Wow. And
But
see
no,
thoughts.
it's right here, like this is
Yeah.
exactly what we've talked about today. And I also want to add one more thing, right? Like for you and I to, first of all, I super appreciate what you're doing with these podcasts and what you're doing with creating space for real discussions, so kudos. I'm always cheering you on, that.
Thank you.
But even for you and I to be vulnerable like this, right, and talk about our life and our experiences, we are still going to be like, oh, are we looking okay in
Right,
this?
right, right.
Are we seated perfectly?
Mm,
Oh, should I look fat? Oh, should I look? I'm not looking nice. Oh, that object should not have been there. Or would
mm,
it have been better if I memorized the question and didn't check my phone in between? You know what I mean? Just this expectation that it has to look a certain way,
yeah.
and bam, sorry, I made that noise, but bam, you counter it with this is what it
It
is.
is what it is. Yeah.
This is what it actually looks like. We can't keep again
Absolutely.
chasing perfection even in a moment like this. So I guess we are walking the talk right now,
Yeah, absolutely. With these podcasts, also, I was just like, oh, everything has to be the lighting, the
Yeah,
sound,
yeah.
the questions, the answers. And then I sat down and I didn't remember any questions. I went with the flow and I gave my answers. And then when I watched it again, I was like, oh my God, oh, I missed that. Oh, I wanted to say that. But you, how can you memorize everything? It will never, there will always be something that you feel you could have done better.
Yes.
And I think that's everywhere, and that's life. And you learn and you improve, and you still feel like I could have done better. And that's a journey. And there has to be a lot of acceptance there that what I'm doing now, I'm proud of myself for that, and I'm doing a great job. But yeah, next time maybe I'll sit on the other side, or
Hmm.
maybe next time the lighting, I'll put a light, extra light here for just so my editor doesn't crib later. So I think it's just learning, but still showing up and doing the stuff. And I know I have to kind of, and thank you for the appreciation, because I do doubt myself a lot when I'm pushing myself out
Tell
of
me
my
about it.
comfort zone. So I'm trying, and I hope people who watch the podcast see that and take something away from it. Anything, whatever they would like to.
Anything.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I had a really fab conversation.
So did I.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.